Welcome to Business Mastery with Dawn Kennedy, your quick under 45-minute dose of expert insights and strategies to make a positive impact on your business and life. Let's get started. Hello, and welcome to this episode of the Business Mastery Podcast. Today, we're talking about consumer perception and what drives people to buy from you and your brand. We're going to talk a little bit about some ways that you can get deeper insights into why your customers do business with you, which of course is going to help you in the long run to serve your customers, expand and grow. So I have Brian here talking about this. They developed something pretty cool that can help you not only with your marketing endeavors, but just in understanding a little more deeply who you are. So thank you so much for joining me here today.
I'm happy to be here, Don. This will be fun.
Yes, it definitely will. So we'll just kick this off by me saying I've taken the yes test for our coffee roastery business, and we found out the type of business that we were and what triggered people to buy. So I'll release that a little later, but let's talk about what you guys developed, discovered, and how it's helping so many businesses.
Sure. The process to develop the test called the yes test was about 7 years. And the reason for it is it's an emotional algorithm. And as you might imagine, those two words don't always go together.
Right.
And so there was no previous model to study, and there still is not. And so we're effectively alone in a nice blue ocean of thought. And the idea behind it was, could an algorithm help a small business to discern what are my best emotional marketing tactics going to be, my strategies, my tactics, my words, all this kind of stuff. What matches my brand? In other words, what will sell my brand easiest to the world? And I'd like to get those answers quickly, so we made the test 5 minutes by design to make it fast, easy, and it's also free. But the idea was to show small businesses for the first time what really works in the marketing of their brand without having to hire a very expensive ad agency to get that information.
So inside this test, these companies find out that they're kind of banned in certain sorts of emotional, I guess, consumer perception, right? So the way that consumers perceive the brand. What are some of those? And some people who are listening in may think, oh, yeah, no, that makes sense. I might align there. I might not. So what are some of the I don't know what you call them, categories maybe, or the
Yeah, well, with the technical word would be archetypes, but
archetypes? Okay.
but most people aren't that familiar with that word. So let's just say emotional branding types.
Okay.
So we found there's 15 emotions that have sold everything on planet Earth, always have, probably always will. And these are not the emotions that always get you through life, but they are the ones that sell products. Okay. So you need to know which of those 15 your brand aligns with. And that's what the test does. It basically takes it from a choice of 15 to a choice of 1. And now that we know which ballpark you're in, we now know all the strategies, tactics, words, phrases, metaphors, colors, upsells, all that salesy stuff, marketing stuff, advertising stuff that you need to know to sell your brand according to that emotional type, because that is the type that the test is saying, if you want to sell your stuff to humans, here's the emotions they're going to need to feel in order to say yes to you. And that's why we call it the yes test. And you're basically one of 15. You don't know which one until you finish the test. But it's pretty revealing, and you get a lot of, as you know, you get a lot of free information, tips, and recommendations instantly once you take the test.
And what are some of the archetypes that people can expect to see?
Yeah, we have confidence archetypes like authority and service, and then there's comfort archetypes like community and approval. There's control archetypes like temptation, fascination, fear of loss. There's aspirational archetypes like envy, greed, as well as prestige, things that make you want more out of life. And then there's change archetypes like attraction and altruism and innovation, brands that change the game. So there's many categories, but they all, we know how that brand should sell, and you'll find that your answer is in fact a compilation of what I just kind of went through. In other words, it's not one solution suits everybody. Here's your answer. Here's your one thing. Go. Good luck. There's so many ways within the archetype to structure ads and make you unique, so you don't have to worry about ever overlapping other people. It's really, when you get into it, you'll see it's very, very easy, but there are many options and many ways for you to win.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'll reveal Convoy Road Copy Roasters came in as a temptation type brand, which was not necessarily surprising because I kind of knew that we were disposable income, kind of something people wanted and desired, not solving really a huge problem in people's lives. But it was very interesting because some of the brands that aligned with that were like the Dove chocolates, right? So these are the brands, I guess, that people, for temptation purposes, that they're not maybe looking to solve a problem, although I would say that most of the women in the world would find chocolate solves a very big problem certain times of the month and year. Right? So, but let's talk about, some of the brands that maybe people would recognize that we can distinguish in their minds, maybe give them a visual of what do you mean by an authoritative business versus an innovative business if they saw it in the wild?
Sure. An authoritative business could be something, well, that's a trust brand, pure
Okay.
trust. So this brand knows more, a lot more about something than you do, and you're never going to catch up to them. Right?
Okay.
These people have degrees on the wall, years and years of school. They're masters of it, and they have high expertise in what they do. So the trust becomes the overwhelming emotion there because people don't even understand how they do it, right? So they just have to trust. There's no educating them. Unfortunately, most authority brands try to educate the consumer, and that's where they go wrong in their marketing. Um, Affinity, happiness brand. Just a brand that really just wants to make the other person on the receiving end happy. So think of like a Hallmark cards.
Yeah.
Okay, somebody, a gift makes all you want when you buy that gift is for the other person's face to light up when they open the little box, right? A prestige brand is something you do for yourself. So maybe on the low end, Starbucks coffee. Uh, I go into Starbucks, I pay too much for coffee. Why? Because I get my formula in a cup with my name on it, and they even scream it out to other people. Here, Brian, here's your, right? So it's like prestigious in a way on a very low scale. On a high scale, maybe it's a Rolex watch. I deserve it. That's the mantra of prestige. I'm going to get it because I deserve it. I don't care about the rest of you. I deserve this thing, right? Let's see. What else can we go? Well, temptation, as you mentioned. These are all the things that you don't really need, but you want them anyway. I
Right.
want a Hershey bar. I want a Snickers. I want a Twinkie. I want a beer. I want a Jack Daniels. I want a steak dinner at Outback, right? I want this stuff. So the temptation brand has to learn how to sell what is really you could do without, right? But you don't want to. But there's a lot of temptation out there, isn't there? You can drive down the street and see tons of ways for you to satisfy your tempting urges. You have to pick one. So it becomes very important. So all of the archetypes are centered around a primal human driver, like temptation, prestige, authority. Like a doctor or a lawyer would be an authority brand. So in your local town, there's plenty of that. And so once you understand the primal emotion that you serve, now comes the how do I serve it best?
Yeah.
How did the biggest authority brands in history make it, Brian? How do I just follow in their footsteps? Evidently, what they did works. Teach me those things, and I'll get there much quicker. Business people aren't stupid. They're just ignorant of these formulas that have been used for decades and decades and decades. They work every time. But until somebody points that out, it isn't really obvious to you. You don't think like a psychologist, you know?
Right.
And
Right.
so
Well,
yeah.
Yeah, to your point also, not only are the businesses not aware of it, I'm wondering how many consumers are aware that these are the primal things that drive them to make decisions. Doesn't sound like most people are even, like, aware that, for particular types of, places to do business or things that they want, to your point, a Starbucks or a Rolex watch, um, they're I'm sure there are people out in the audience that'll be like, "Well, they're different," but you're saying that that consumer, decision to go with that brand in a lot of ways has an instinct to it that probably they're not aware of.
Oh, you're absolutely correct. I mean, most of us go around like right now we're using our conscious brains. We're communicating, we're very conscious of this conversation. And the people listening are conscious. And we use our conscious brains to take in sensory data from the world. And it sorts it and sifts it. But to make a decision requires a subconscious decision
Yeah.
from the brain you're usually not thinking about at all, your subconscious mind, which is a billion times more powerful than your conscious mind. It makes 10,000 decisions a day for you effortlessly, every single day. It never sleeps, it never rests, and it's always ready to help you make a decision. Then the conscious brain says, "Aha, I'll take the red Ferrari, please," thus making you think it was a conscious decision. But what you learn in advertising, if you learn from good people, is that the decisions are made on a subconscious level. That's why a company like Skittles can tell you to taste the rainbow. It's an absolutely ridiculous request. You
Yes,
can't, right?
actually.
I can't taste the rainbow, right? I don't know if you can, but it hasn't happened. Yet it sounds good to your subconscious, kind of the happy feeling mind, right? Hey, tasting a rainbow, that sounds like fun. I bet that would be a rainbow wouldn't hurt me. Well, look at the pretty candy, right? And so you think at that level subconsciously, and you buy for irrational reasons. Once you know those, it's game over. You've got the answers to the test, and that's what we're trying to show people is like it's not so brilliant. It's just untaught.
Yeah.
Right? And if you don't know it, you might as well be unable to learn it, which is not the case. Which is more likely? The techniques to sell products are only known by a few geniuses somewhere in a deep, dark lab buried underground, and we have to pay stupid money to learn these types of emotional secrets, or they are easy to repeat emotional formulas that anybody could learn to use in a matter of a few minutes and be instantly in the know. Which do you think is more likely?
Right.
It's the second, of course, and everybody out there can know your archetype, your emotions, your triggers. Some people call them triggers. Um, and then just use them in everything you do, your emails, your social, your website, your funnels, even your speech. When we're on a Zoom call, you have to be persuasive. You can't just send them a brochure. It helps there too. So it's universally helpful.
Now let's go one step deeper than that. Before we started recording, we were talking about that a lot of businesses think they just need like a logo, a tagline, the right fonts. But you say that there's more to this too, as well as like choosing your colors or maybe rebranding based on this archetype that we respond to different things like colors and words emotionally as humans that can also drive your brand to be more successful.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I mean, most people think, "Hey, I got a logo. I've got a website. That's my brand." And perhaps in some way that is true. It's part of the brand. There's no question about it. But your brand is kind of a wiggly thing. It is a perception. You can't hold it in your hand. It's intangible. The brand is what people think of you when your logo has left the room.
Yeah.
So you think of Apple, what do you think? You think of a certain thing. You think of FedEx, what do you think? You think of BMW, what do you think? These brands have invested billions so that everybody thinks about them in a very similar way. So they can have congruence in their marketing and they can just keep reinvesting down the same line of thought. It's much more economically feasible to do the same thing over and over and win than to try 100 different things and win once and then
Right.
not even know which one of those things is working, right? So yeah, it becomes very, very important that you don't confuse brand with the tokens that we consider representations of it. The brand is what people feel. And if you can and control that, and if you can sort of keep that in the same channel so everybody thinks the same way, you're going to be very wealthy in whatever it is you do.
Right, yeah, because staying like you were saying to congruence, if you are somebody who maybe believes that they're one thing, but this test were to show they were something else, or they're hybrids. I know there's probably some people who are like, I think I know what I am. They'll go take the test, it'll come out something different. Do they have to wipe everything? I mean, what is the um I guess the impact of learning? I know that when we found out we were a temptation brand, it aligned with a lot of the things that we believe, but we did also take another look and go, are we giving a confusing message because we didn't understand this emotional piece
Yeah.
that maybe we thought was missing? Coffee's coffee, right? You want it in the morning or you want it, eat cocktails with it or something, but there was just more to it than that.
There's a lot more to it. I mean, coffee at its, so let's say at its lowest end could be just a commoditized product.
Right.
They're all the same. And of course, that's not true. And the question is, can we convince the consumer that your coffee is better? It's more tempting than the next brand of coffee that wants to take your place in the market, essentially. And temptation brands tend to chase a disloyal dollar because as soon as somebody comes up with another form of temptation, they want to try that too.
Oh,
You
that's
know,
true.
you ever go to a bar and they have a special and the special promotion girl comes up to you and says, "You wanna try one of these?" And of course you go, "Sure." And they're buying. And all of a sudden, your favorite brand of whiskey just took a step down, right? Just took a back seat to this new thing trying to steal the customer away. And temptation brands fight an ongoing waging war against the other temptation brands. And you need to understand what's inside that archetype because that's the secret weaponry. That's how the big boys do it when they're spending a half a million or a
Yeah.
billion. It doesn't matter what it is. They have to be right. They don't have that kind of money to waste. And on a very, very small scale in your local economy, neither do you. You might spend 5,000 a month or 500 a month on advertising. And to you, that's the same as them spending half a billion. So you can't be wrong and neither can they. The really good news is they spend a fortune and guess what? They put on a clinic every night for you on your TV screen as you're watching all the commercials for all the different types of products. You can learn a little bit from watching TV and saying, "Aha, Skittles. Why do they want me to taste the rainbow? Why does Red Bull think giving me wings is a good idea?" Right? And all of a sudden you start to realize these are feelings of happiness. And just be happy. Just be free. Just enjoy. We don't wanna tell you what's in it, right? We don't wanna
Yeah.
show you how the sausage is made. We
Right.
just want you to like the brand. If you like the brand, you probably pick it up in the store, and our market share goes up and the other guys goes down. That's it, and that's about as simple as it gets.
Yeah, it's very true. It's interesting because again, we're in the coffee space and there's collateral products that work with our coffee like Nestle creamers, right? Coffee Mate. And yeah, by watching even their commercials and realizing where their messaging changes over time, right? One time it was like taste the experience or put your feet up and have a cup of coffee with this Coffee Mate. And then at one point they went to, you can make 20 coffee house style coffees at home for the cost of one takeout. And that was during the pandemic where people couldn't go out so much anymore. And it was very interesting because even though I didn't know at the time we were a temptation brand, I was watching the consumer, um, I guess, messaging that was coming out from this multi-billion-dollar Nestle corporation, knowing that we would have to sort of match their messaging a little bit or at least try to incorporate their messaging because they were controlling what the consumer was thinking, specifically about coffee, because of the fact that they had changed from this experiential thing to this value thing. And I'm wondering, even if it's not a temptation brand, once you find out what your archetype is, you should be able to find some of the bigger players in the market. And like you said, kind of put on the clinic and figure out what they're doing with all the money they're spending and how they're driving that consumer behavior.
Yeah, and it's possible that they can, for example, you're a temptation brand, you're that scrappy brand that's fighting for the market share, right? You got a really unique product, but it's not on every grocery store shelf across America. Now, if you're Folgers or Maxwell House, you have a brand that is on every grocery store shelf, and that would be more of an approval brand,
Okay.
okay? Because it's just a different category. It's one of the 15. But, it's often seen that once a brand gets so big, we no longer have to teach you, how tempting it is. You already know. We just gotta beat the other 4 coffees on either side of us on the shelf. That's all we gotta do. We don't have to teach you to like coffee anymore. You already like that. We gotta beat our neighbors on the shelf. And to do that, you would use more of an approval brand. Everybody likes this one type of thing. All these people can't be wrong. It's the most popular. It's the winner. It's the trendy one. It's the cool one. It's the cool kid. And that's a whole different archetype of triggers and emotional formulas. So if you're lucky enough to get to that level, you take another yes test, you may find you've been recategorized. But most of the time, that doesn't happen. Most of the time, as you are diagnosed on the test, that is how you remain through your branding life, unless you change the brand significantly. Um,
Right.
People don't change, so the archetypes don't change. You have the same emotional toolbox as Caesar, Mozart, Shakespeare, right? You just use them in modern day, but we still remember their brands thousands of years later, right? So it is very, very interesting how simple it is. And it's the simplicity that escapes a lot of people because humans like to make it complex, right? We want to be so smart. We want to make it so complex, only we can understand it. But if you could see how simple it is, our formula is 1 plus 2 equals 3.
Right.
That's not exactly a hard formula to figure out. Okay, so that's how simple it is, folks. It's kinda like knowing the answers to the test before you take the test. Of course, it's easy. You see the answers and then it's easy, but until you saw them, it was hard.
Right. Yeah, this is very interesting because I also want to say that as business owners and just as another human, I think sometimes we're in denial the amount of emotion that goes into our decision making. And I believe as a business owner, a lot of times we just want to believe we're putting something out there, people like it, or that the way we're connecting with our customers maybe isn't as emotional. Maybe we want to remove the emotion and say we don't want to be emotionally driven. We want people to make a conscious decision to do business with us or things like that. And I'm wondering, as you were developing all of this and learning about this, did you run into that? And do you still run into that?
Yeah, people, have a somewhat distorted view of emotion and how important it is. Scientists will tell you that 95% of your life is made up of emotional decisions.
That's a lot.
That's a lot, right? And it's hard to believe. As conscious, brilliant human beings, we don't really like that statement. That really sounds like, "Wait a minute, I'm not really in control here? Is that what you're telling me? My smart brain is kind of in the back seat most of the time and the subconscious brain." Yeah, but the smart brain is there with veto power. If for some reason the subconscious says, "Hey, let's go play on the freeway," your conscious brain should step in and go, "Oh, wait a minute. Um, I don't think that's a good idea." And you see, your conscious brain does sort of get the last word, but it is really interesting just how subconscious we are. We are not uh, rational beings having an occasional moment of irrationality. We are irrational beings having occasional moments of rationality, especially when it comes to advertising, persuasion. That's all advertising is. It's just gentle persuasion to lean this way. Now lean over here towards our new diet product because we don't want you to think that we're making you fat with the original one.
Right.
It's what one of the biggest surprises in light beer was when Miller came out with Miller Lite. Nobody thought that was a good idea. It's just going to point out that the other beer's making me fat, so aren't they both? And the light beer can't be any good. And everybody was wrong. Miller did it anyway, and became. It took Budweiser 20 years to catch up with Bud Light. because they made a perfect formula for why a light beer was necessary. Tastes great, less filling.
Right.
And there's a formula for that. It's in our materials. We studied those types of brands. So people say, well, how'd you come up with all this stuff?
Yeah.
Hundreds of formula, right? I mean, it's like a crazy little thing that's just sitting over here, and the algorithm knows it because we studied the biggest brands in the world, the ones that went from zero to hero. We didn't study it if they had 10 billion social media followers and they just shoved it down the pipe of social media, because then it would just be maybe popularity driving the purchase. We studied when their brand was doing poorly, perhaps on the verge of bankruptcy, like, I don't know, companies like Apple, Geico, Federal Express, companies that weren't doing well at one point.
Right.
And then all of a sudden, a magical ad came out. Just a game-changing just turn the volume knob just a little bit to the right. And all of a sudden, billions, just boom, just flooding in. Instant success. Those are the ads we studied, because those are the ones you want to know, because they work right away on all people. And
Yeah.
that's where the money is. And so when you do find a company that has a successful formula, there's I'm not going to say 100% chance, but I'm going to say is a pretty gosh darn big chance that we've already mapped that out and you could learn it in 5 minutes.
So let me ask you, these companies like Geico or FedEx, which you would think are pretty cerebral companies, right? Insurance and shipping, they don't technically, maybe on the surface drive this emotion. Was there some kind of emotional connection or change to their advertising that turned them around?
Yeah, for example, if you remember, FedEx at one point was a product nobody believed in. Nobody actually believed they could get it there overnight. There's
Okay.
millions of people that just said, "No, come on, that's silly. You can't get my letter to go across the country in overnight, come on, yeah, for 10
Okay.
bucks, right?" And so they had a large problem. They had a perception issue as well as a logistical one, which, that's a nightmare.
Right.
And, they came out when it absolutely positively has to be there overnight. Trust, trust, trust. This
Ah,
okay?
okay.
They're a service brand. Trust is huge for a service brand. You do the job right the first time, you won't get a chance to do it the second. So Federal Express had to create trust. Um, so that's an interesting thing that they had to overcome. Uh, what was the other one we were mentioning?
Geico. So
Geico.
is this before the lizard, before the little Geico guy?
For the little British lizard.
The little yes.
Geico was a struggling near, some say near bankruptcy brand. 2,000 insurance companies, nobody ever heard of the Government Employee Insurance Company. That's what Geico stands for. Well, when they decided to go beyond just government employees, they had an issue. Nobody knew who they were, and they sell the same product pretty much every other 2,000, all 2,000 other car insurance companies sell the same thing. It's mandated by law. So how do you make it different? Well, they ended up creating the Gecko because there was an actor strike at the time. They couldn't hire any actors, so they created an animated character, and they did a pretty gosh darn good job of it so that they would never be held hostage by the market again. And the Gecko was humor. Humor, likability. A lot of brands that sell this type of product believe in mascots. Now we have the Limu Emu.
Right,
Okay.
right, yeah,
Right, it's
okay.
just you just see it over and over and over because when Geico broke out with their commercial campaign, they went from nobody to the number 2 insurance company in the entire United States. And you can bet that the Allstates, Progressives, State Farms of the world were studying that going, Okay, what are we gonna do to compete with this?" Well, they did the same thing Geico did. The formula was laugh and save. 15 minutes could save you 15% on your car insurance, right? As long as you're laughing, because it's a product you really don't wanna buy. It's a grudge purchase. Nobody wants to buy car insurance ever. They know that. So they don't even talk about it. Let's just talk about happy lizards and funny commercials and saving 15%. And everybody else fell in line, and now you've got the top 6 car insurance companies all using the same formula at the same time to sell the same product to the same people, and it works for all of them.
I was gonna say, and how many of us are, like, sitting here listening to this going, "Wow, that is so true." You've got, Jake from State Farm and Flo and Limu Emu and all those. You're right. You're right. Isn't that interesting? And all of us are being influenced in some way with this, probably unaware. Because you're right, nobody wants to buy car insurance, and yet they have to sell it. You have to have it. So,
It is an irrational decision. It may have some facts in it. I'm not telling you the
right,
facts don't matter, right? Of course, it's nice to have facts. It's even better to have some emotional facts, okay? Because emotions rule. And so if you've got a bunch of boring facts about your brand, expect a boring result.
right,
If you can sensationalize it a little bit into an emotional category, you're going to leave a memory. See, the brands that advertise in the big world are more concerned that they have brand awareness and in memory. If even if you don't run out and buy some Geico insurance today, you remember that name. And that's what happened to me. I went to a car dealership, bought a new car, and then they said, "Well, we can insure it today. You want to go through we have a deal with Geico." And I said, "Sure." I didn't even hesitate. Why? I already trusted the brand from all the zillion commercials I'd seen. I knew it was probably going to be good enough for me, and they had a deal on it. Save money, 15% could save you, save money
right.
and laugh. And I bought, and I didn't wake up that day thinking I'm going to buy some car insurance. I didn't even think of that, but it was in my head in a second. That's what they rely on because the commercial, if they can't do anything else, be memorable.
Right. Right. Yeah. Because I mean, insurance renews what, once a year, once every 6 months or something. So it's on the top of your mind. I should call them next time, instead of just renewing and things like that. This, I think, is incredibly important for people who are listening in who maybe have purchases that are not, repeated monthly or something like that, or a commodity or something. I want to bring you back to what you said about some of the other temptation brands again, because I now have some awareness of that. You were saying like a steak at Applebee's or some bourbon or some chocolate or something like that. These are actually across different ways of receiving products, right? So the restaurant, they bring it to your table. You have to physically go there. Some of the things can be delivered to your door. Some of the things will be at the grocery store. So the underlying thing for the brand, whether it's a steak or a chocolate or coffee, really is that emotional, I want this, I deserve this. And across all of these archetypes, there is that underlying kind of either self-serving reason to buy, like you were saying with the insurance, somebody really wants to buy it, it's a grudge purchase. How aware are most of the small businesses that you have worked with before the yes test that this doesn't mean like you may align with something that is not necessarily all of your competitors, right? Your business brands may also align just from how you position yourself in the market. Is that kind of a fair assessment that we're looking not just at a particular product or service, but it's emotional grab and how it sits?
Yeah, the most people don't give it a second thought, like which emotions. You ask a small business owner, what are the two emotions that makes your brand sell better than anything else? Quick, go. They can't tell you. You say
Mm,
that to $1 billion CEO, he'll say it's this and this. I can tell you because I've had the help of billion-dollar ad agencies to figure this stuff out. They have a little advantage. Here's a scenario that'll illustrate it, I think, really well. Let's say there's an intersection in your small town, all right? And on one corner is a children's candy store, all right? Now, across the street from that is a steakhouse with a bar. And across the street from that is a cupcake shop for adults, fancy muffins and cupcakes. And across the street from that on the fourth corner is a dance or a nightclub, okay? Late night fun. Now, none of these business appear to have much in common
right.
with the other. They all appear to have a different demographic, different types of people, right? What they have in common is they're all temptation brands. They sell what is not needed. You don't need to go to that nightclub, buy those cookies. You don't need to get that steak dinner. You certainly don't need to buy children candy. You don't have to. You can get along through life with all of those, not in your picture. However, each one of those completely unique businesses would use the exact same temptation formulas to sell their form of it to their best customer. You want to, it doesn't matter what age you are, temptation exists on a happy scale. Some might say too much drinking, right, would be an abuse of a temptation. So temptation often comes with just a little bit of guilt. Oh, it'll make me fat. Oh, I shouldn't drink too much. Oh, I shouldn't go out late at night
That's
all the time.
interesting. Okay. That
So, part of the temptation brand's job, just to be kind of help you out a little bit on temptation, is just to not only to get this thing sold, but to make you feel like you didn't kind of fall prey to your weaknesses by purchasing it.
yeah.
And you don't want to make anybody feel guilty. Why do they have happy hours in bars? They don't have drinking hours.
Right.
They have happy hours. Well, that sounds so much better, doesn't it? We're all going to be happy, right? And you see this all the time in temptation marketing. Is I need a change of state. I want to feel happy. I want to be among other people. Why do you think Starbucks has a nice big room for you to sit in? So you can sit with all the other sinners and drink your coffee, right? We enjoy the company of others when we're having our temptation time.
Yeah.
It's human nature. So, yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? When you dig into the onion just a little bit, all of these things you took for granted become business plan mantra
Yeah.
as soon as you know it.
Yeah. That's amazing. All right. So where can everybody listening take the test? I would encourage you to take the test. It's free. I took it. We got a lot out of it. And as you can hear from the conversation, you don't have to be in a particular industry to be stovepiped into a particular brand. So I wanted to make sure we were clear that you should take it to figure out your brand and your positioning. So where can I take the test?
Yeah, it doesn't matter if you buy parts for nuclear reactors. It's an emotional decision when you buy that part, isn't it? Yeah, you can anybody that's listening, please. It's free. It'll take about 5 minutes. Go to freeyestest.com. Free, like no cost, freeyestest.com. And you can start the test for your own business. Take about 5 minutes. You'll get about 6 or 7 pages of instant recommendations, and but more importantly, it'll tell you which of the emotional types your business is, so you can get further down the road, and you can ignore the other ballparks, the other 14 ballparks. You only care about the one you should play in, right? So do that in freeyestest.com, and I think you'll be very, very glad you did.
Yeah, and the consumer insights are really so important because we don't get to control the market, right? So having the consumer insights and understanding also how your brand should maybe respond to changing markets is very important. As well. And if you don't know where you're starting from, you can't be responsive.
Yeah, it's an interesting thing. One of our Oh, we have a lot of slogans and sayings in our company, but one of them is that technology changes, people don't. And the market of, let's just say right now we're in a tech market, AI this and
Right.
Google that, right? So the tendency is to, just kind of wander along with the tech and try to keep up with it. And I will suggest to you that the smarter move is to take a step back from tech because that'll change tomorrow, right? Tech's job is to stay ahead of you, and it does a really good job at doing that, by the way.
Yeah.
Innovation brands have to be in the lead, and they don't care if you can catch up. In fact, they don't want you to. They make
Right.
money because you can't. So, wouldn't it be smarter to take a step back from the temptation bullet train or the authority bullet train or the tech bullet train, all the things that are moving a million miles an hour, and say, hey, I just want to learn what works on humans, always has and always will. Therefore, I know I could attempt this and be reasonably sure it's going to work, but I also know I can invest in it because next week it's not going to change, right? People still like cookies.
Yeah.
People still need to trust their doctors, lawyers, and CPAs and financial advisors. People still want to be happy, create happiness when they're buying a gift for somebody else. These primal emotions never change. If we didn't have them, we wouldn't have gotten out of the cave.
That's true.
We would have just laid there and died. We wouldn't have had enough motivation to go get lunch. So it is so powerful to understand them because they drive us all every single day. And the minute you learn it, um, write me a note and say thanks because it's
All right.
really cool stuff. It's really cool
Okay.
stuff.
So beyond the yes test, where can they follow you on social media and learn more about other things? I do know you do advertising and some other things inside your agency. Where can they learn more about the agency and stuff itself beyond the test?
Our main website is Admanity, Adman with an ITY, admanity.com, and we kind of show you some of our products there. Once you take the test, you'll get a bigger introduction to the products. You kind of get behind the scenes. You get backstage, so to speak. You can see things better. I'm on LinkedIn, Brian Gregory, yes test. Just type in Brian Gregory, yes test. I'm huge on Alignable. If you're an Alignable fan, I recently won the local business person of the year contest for the entire continent of North America. Um,
Congratulations.
I did it with the test. I simply gave out the test to everybody I met, and it's a voting thing, so they all voted for me. And so, you can really we can show you these tools that we've developed beyond the test. There's other products. The test is the hello, how are you? And then would you like to see our back, the stuff we have over here. The And so it's very, very, we give it away free, but we hope that it makes you curious enough to see what else we have.
Amazing. So we're going to put all of those links down inside the show notes, the link to the test, the link to the website. We'll put your LinkedIn in there as well. And if you're not on Alignable, I believe that's how you and I met. Alignable is another kind of networking service similar to LinkedIn, but I think it's a little cleaner than LinkedIn at this point. I think LinkedIn's gotten a little Instagram-y for some people's taste. So Alignable, it's still a little bit smaller and a little more niche, but we'll put your Alignable handle in there too. So thank you so much for this conversation and explaining these archetypes and why they're important to know. Small businesses need every advantage because a lot of times we don't have the deep pockets of large businesses.
No, that is so true. You don't have the time, nor do you have the money to make mistakes. There's an old saying, experience is what you get when you didn't get what you wanted,
Right.
right? And nobody in business these days, especially these days, has the luxury of being able to just blunder through the jungle,
Right.
throwing darts at a randomly spinning board, hoping my ad hits. And then if it does hit, they don't know what is it, why did I don't even know why it's successful. And I'm afraid to change anything because the thing, it's the first thing that ever worked. So you really need to understand it. Then you can just create it time after time after time. It's so easy. 1 + 2 = 3. If you can do that, you can win. Come see us.
Amazing. All right. We'll talk to y'all next time on the next episode of the Business Mastery Podcast. Take care. Thank you so much for listening to this episode of the Business Mastery Podcast. If you want to learn more about me, you can go to DawnKKennedy.com, and you can now check us out on YouTube as well as, of course, any of your favorite platforms that host podcasts. Take care.